This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We are doing a virtual meeting again, so we're going to do quick introductions. With us today, we have Councillor Ron Mamchuk,
Good morning.
Councillor Shane Pelletier,
Good morning.
Councillor Janine Boulanger,
Morning.
Councillor Curtis Clayton.
Morning, everyone.
From admin, we have CEO Mitch Duval,
Morning.
and in the background, we have Assistant CEO Dominic Lemoine.
Good morning.
And we have myself, Mayor Chris Ewan. I will start the meeting off here. Everything will be recorded and online. We will be voting virtually, so you'll be casting your vote. You won't be raising your hand as per usual. So item 1, meeting called to order. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Boulanger, go ahead.
Councillor Clayton seconds it. Voting is open. Please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you very much. Item 2, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Boulanger.
Thank you. Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Councillor Pelletier seconds it. Just an addition here, I'd like to add item 6.2.2. Is that correct, Mr. CEO?
Correct.
Okay, and that's in regards to Richshot Fire Protection Grant. Council's okay with that addition. And then does council want to go directly to the, oh no, the delegations at, yeah, the delegations at 9. Does council want to go directly to the delegation and then do business as usual?
Yes.
Yes, please. Sounds fair.
Okay, so those 2 additions. Any other comments or additions from council?
Not here.
Not
No.
here.
Okay, please cast your vote.
Resolution is carried 5-0.
Perfect. Okay, we will move on to the delegations. 5.1 with RCMP Staff Sergeant Laundreville. Mr. Laundreville, go ahead.
Good morning. I trust everyone received copy of the 2Q stats, July 1st to September 30th.
Yes.
Is there any questions or anything that you see you'd like addressed or clarified?
I'll open up to council right away. I've got one question first. I'm looking at these numbers and they are significantly high for a quarter, but what is the difference in crimes against property reported and actual?
Right. So the reported is what someone might call in and say, well, I'm reporting this type of crime against property. We'll have a look at what the person is saying, and based on the evidence and based on what they're telling us, we may be, they may be reporting like it doesn't fall under the qualifications of crime against property. So an example, this one we've had 14 that were actually reported. Now we don't have an actual, we have actuals on mischief and break and enters, and the rest might be something else. But the difference between actual and reported is, like I said, if someone reports 8, but we can say that 6 of the 8 are something else, maybe a civil issue, let's say, and it may not be a crime against property, then we'll score it as a civil issue and it doesn't fall under that category.
Okay, no, that's, I just wasn't sure, so I appreciate that. Council, I'll open it to the floor. Do you have comments or questions in regards to the report of the actions happening in Richshot?
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
have a quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Janine.
We'll start with Councillor Clayton and then go to Councillor Boulanger.
Yeah, just for Staff Sergeant Laundreville, thanks for being here today. Yeah, just looking at crimes against property, we're seeing an increase, and I'm just curious. I mean, does the pandemic, does COVID have any effect on that? I mean, is it are we living in tougher economic times, which are seeing people do things we don't like?
It's difficult to nail that down to an exact answer here for you.
Yeah.
It's just a sign of the time sometimes, and yeah, it could have something to do with that. Then again, it could be just, who knows. A lot of what we see is drug related, like we've spoken about before with meth and the problems that leads to. Yeah, it's hard. I can't really nail it down to anything. If it was totally off the charts, then maybe we could sit down and have an analyst have a look at it. But from 8 to 14, I'm not overly concerned about that. I can see across the board that everywhere else has gone up as well. So it seems to be consistent.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Belanger?
Yeah, just touching more on the crimes against property, the break and enters. So, for example, I'm from the Grand Point area, so I'll focus on Grand Point. 11 were reported, 2 were mischief, and 3 were break and enters. So what you're saying, of those 11 reported, the 2 and 3 are in that. I've heard a lot of people say there was break and enters this summer. So to me, these numbers actually seem low, having just 2 and 3, or 3 for the break and enters. So I guess I'm just curious as, again, to how you say you look at them to see if they fall under your category of an actual break and enter or not.
Yeah, an example might be someone will call in a break and enter to their car. They say my car was broken into. Under the criminal code, a car cannot be broken into, only a residence or a place, quote unquote place. Car doesn't fall into that definition. So if it's reported as a break and enter, then we'll score it as a theft from vehicle. So it's not a break and enter. Example again is someone will say somebody robbed me, and we'll say, well, what happened? Well, I was away from my house and someone came into my house and stole my diamond ring. We'll turn around and say, well, that's not a robbery, that's a break and enter. So this is where we fall into quite a bit. So that's the difference you'll see from a reported to an actual.
Okay.
So a lot of these thefts, we're getting a lot of thefts from vehicles, a lot of theft of vehicles. Every single theft of vehicle we had has been related to people leaving their keys inside their vehicle. The old-fashioned, wiring of the vehicles or anything like that, we don't have any of those anymore. All the theft of vehicles we've had have been people leaving their keys inside. And I have a lot of arguments with people. Some people tell me that's why I have insurance. I've had those comments mentioned to me many times. And one person actually told me it's his right to leave his keys in his vehicle. So that's why he has insurance. So this is the type of mentality here we're dealing with. So it's extremely challenging and difficult.
Yeah, I guess it's always a frustrating thing too on the resident side. I'll use myself as a prime example. We got our bike stolen out of our shed this summer. I reported it, and that's where it ended. So would that be an actual break and enter then, out of a shed?
Out of a shed? That's a possibility. Yeah, it all depends. Yeah, we'd have to.
And there's no follow-up from you guys on that. There's no way you can, right?
Well, the only thing we can do, if we have suspects, we can follow up with that. If there's serial numbers on the bikes, we can put them on our computer system, and we can do news releases and things like that.
Yeah,
check if people have video surveillance as well, and and if we don't have any of those 3 or 4 things mentioned, it's difficult to follow up. Because we really don't have anywhere to go with that.
Okay. I do have another question, if you council will allow. There's been a lot of dirt bikes and quad action on the roads. In Grand Point in particular, they race up and down Burnett and they race in on Discovery Drive. It's a loop and it's prime real estate for them to do this at. I know a few of the residents had called the RCMP. So I just want to know what your thoughts on are. How can we go about deterring that or prevent or stopping that from happening?
So I do have I have Eastman Traffic Services, who actually used to be Steinbach and Selkirk Traffic Services with the RCMP. They're our roving traffic unit. All I need is an email from one of you guys there telling me the times and locations, and I can send that off to those traffic units who are basically project based, and they'll be able to assist you with that.
So would they perhaps set up, just sit on the corner and monitor it for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Just tell me exactly where it's happening, what times are the most popular.
Okay.
They can buy with some marked units, some unmarked units. They'll set up an operation. And like I tell people, be careful what you wish for, because there's not going to be any warnings, I can tell you that. They're going to be nailed with heavy tickets. So I'm not sure if that's what you're after or not. I always tell people that, because they come back to me later and say, well, Anderville, I mean, you guys wrote 27 tickets and you made $20,000. And we'll say, yep, that's what we did. You guys wanted that. Well, no, we wanted warnings. Well, we're not going to be warning anybody. If you guys call me and you want action, there's going to be action taken. So I don't know if you want to discuss that first, or if you want to send me an email right away.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Perfect.
This is Councillor Mamchuk. Good morning.
Morning.
The traffic tickets or issuing tickets for high speeding, would that be under the traffic offenses, sir?
I'm sorry?
Or speeding tickets?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then I just have one more comment. Just on behalf of businesses in the area, we've noticed, I don't want to say an increase, because I think it's actually pretty steady in the business break-ins, but it seems to happen a lot closer together. Like, for example, I can use the sports store here, Adventure Power Products. They were broken into, within a 3-week time frame. So I don't know what can be done, but what concerns me is it seems that it's just a free for all. As soon as it happens once, it's a repetitive thing. So is it a matter of bringing in some kind of patrol at, that 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. Or any thoughts on your behalf?
Yeah, so on that particular one, we do have a suspect that's currently wanted. He's been charged with that. We did recover 2 motorcycles. We still have 3 added to our system by serial number, and we're still looking. So to answer your question, we do have 1 suspect, actually 2 that were taken into custody, and 1 more that we're looking for right now is wanted. I encourage everyone to look at possibilities of alarms is a good deterrent, and to advertise that. And also, if it's worth for them is to get some kind of a private security as well. I mean, we can't be everywhere at the same time. We try to be, but it's we all know that just random patrols doesn't cure anything. The studies have been done and showed us that just increasing patrols in an area of hope of deterring crime won't work. There's got to be other things that have to be done. So alarms are good, depending on what it is. I know a lot of construction sites use private companies or security companies who just sit there all night with lights on and in a vehicle, and that helps tremendously. And video surveillance, yes and no. Now people are just wearing balaclavas and masks now anyway with COVID, so they're difficult to make IDs. But these are some of the things that I recommend.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, well, and you just said it again, like our construction sites, I think at St. Adolphe have seen an increase in theft too. If Councillor Mamchuk or the CEO can confirm that, we just had a report. So yeah, that's a great opportunity. Maybe I'll speak with the business owners and developers with some potential possibilities. So thank you. Is there any other comments or questions for Staff Sergeant?
One here, just wondering what staff levels are out of St. Pierre right now, currently and actual infield.
Okay, so we're at 15 full operational members. Right now I'm sitting at 11, and we have 1 coming in here on the middle of November to bring me back up to 12. And I have a cadet that's being trained right now, so by probably in another 4 to 5 months, that'll bring me up to 13. Staffing is looking at grabbing a couple of my members here probably in the winter months of 2021, so it'll come back down again. They're not really good right now. depot shut down during COVID. I think there's only 3 or 4 troops there. We were supposed to be getting anywhere from 40 to 60 cadets in D Division, which is Manitoba. They told us we're only going to be getting 7. So it's not good right now. That's all I can really say. We'll continue providing the best service we can with what we got, but it's actually not very good right now.
Okay, thank you for that, sir.
Anything else from council?
Oh, fine here.
No, thank you.
Mr. CEO, did you have any comments or anything to add?
No, I think council touched everything that's come across my desk and voicemail, so appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Staff Sergeant Landreville. I appreciate that. And on behalf of all of council, I do thank every one of you and your members for their service. So give them my best and continue the good work.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, have a good day. Okay, we will jump back. It was a delegation, so we do not need to open or close that. So we will go to item 3, adoption of minutes. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Second?
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. CEO. Mr. CEO.
Sorry, I was muted. Are you guys seeing the agendas on your screen right now?
Yeah, it's a lot easier for me actually if you could continue that.
Oh, okay. Then we will continue this then. Sorry, so we are at the adoption of the minutes.
Correct.
Yes.
Thing is, you're going to see what I'm doing in the background here, so might be a good.
No, you can turn that off.
Yeah, turn that off. I'll just keep flipping back screen to screen.
Okay, now I got to turn it off. There we go.
Hey.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Who did we have moving?
We had, shoot.
Mamchuk and Pelletier.
Oh, thank God for that memory.
Thank you. Mamchuk and Councillor Pelletier. All right. So the minutes from the last council meeting of October 21st, we had 3 conditional uses with 1 variation. We also dealt with 3 bylaws that were passed by council: the reduced school zone, the municipal speed zones, and code of conduct. And that was pretty much it. Just to follow up with the code of conduct, there was an AMM bulletin that was sent out yesterday. The portal is now open to register yourselves and to take the course online, and that needs to be done by May 2nd of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Is there any comments or additions on the agenda? Minutes, sorry. Edits?
Not here.
Okay, I'll call for the question.
That is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to finance 4.1, accounts paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Clayton.
Second.
Councillor Blanchet.
Thank you.
We have 1 batch totaling just over 68,000. Nothing to report on here. Standard stuff.
Any comments from council?
Not here.
No.
None here.
Okay, council, please cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 4.2, accounts not paid to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Mamchuk,
Second?
Counselor Pelletier.
Okay, we have 3 batches. The big batch is batch 14315 in a total of 413,650. The CFO presented his report there regarding some of the items that are in there. We have some additional riders through Affinity Insurance for our equipment. We had a bill from Emterra. The big one is the assessment levy that we pay at the end of November for $132,500. And there's some municipal insurance benefits as well as the construction on the Grant Point Clubhouse that has started. So there's a payment there to Region Construction. Other than that, nothing else to, and we have the Plyvent system in the Sanigat Fire Hall finally completed. So that's in there as well.
Any questions from council?
not here.
Just the one, the assessment levy, how do they calculate that? And I can wait till later if you want, Mitch. I don't expect it.
I believe it's a per capita fee. So the more population, the more you will pay, of course. And I could compare numbers that I'm familiar with in the arm of Montcalm and in the arm of Reachot. Montcalm's is way lower than Reachot's for sure. So that goes towards provincial assessment services that we get.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, council, please cast your vote.
That is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to 4.3, council indemnities. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Mamchuk,
Second?
Counselor
Counselor
Blanchet.
Clayton.
Councillor Belanger seconds it.
Council all has a copy of each individual's indemnity report for the month of October. Nothing to report there.
Any comments from council or additions or confusion on anything?
I
Norm?
would like to comment on how I like the share feature that we're using so we can be more accurate in our allotting of our hours for meetings.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Curtis, you're not on though, right? Is there any way to get you on board with that?
I think you just did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if Dominic has to set him up for that or if it's just part of his Microsoft Office suite. Dominic?
Are you talking about SharePoint with the new?
It's, consider it done.
Okay, SharePoint, yeah. I think I set that up. I can't remember how I did it, so you might have to figure out a techie to get you to help there. Shane's right there, he can help you.
I think I'll be fine.
Perfect. Any other comments? Okay. Cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Thank you. Item 4.4, payroll to be approved. Do I have a mover?
Counselor Mamchuk,
Counselor, say that again, mover?
Counselor Mamchuk,
Counselor Mamchuk, second.
Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you.
Went through the payroll for, hang on here, if I can move this over and I can't, that's okay. Basically looked at the summary payroll that was given to us by the CFO. Some minor overtime here and there, some bank hours were used. Some vacations were also used, which is a good sign to see coming towards year end, because we need to have that in balance and control. So basically nothing major to report or minor to report.
Any comments or additions or edits from council?
Not here.
Not here.
Okay, council, cast your vote.
That vote is carried 5-0.
Okay, moving over to item 6.1.1, speed display device, PR 200 South St. Adolphe. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk?
Second,
Councillor Clayton?
thank you.
Sorry, folks. At the last Public Works meeting, we were discussing speed radar signs. That's the instrument that tells you how fast you're going when you're entering a zone. From what I picked up at that meeting, we could definitely use one at the PR 200 south entrance of St. Adolphe. Because it is a PR road, there is a process to be had where you need to request permission from them to be able to put the mobile device sign. There's an indemnification form that also needs to be signed. So in discussions with Councillor Mamchuk yesterday, we could only put the sign within the zone where it's applicable. So right now it is a 90 changing to a 50 right at the dike entrance. So I just drew a quick sketch and put it to council to show them exactly where the location would be. Still waiting for the 70 zone to come into play. It's frustrating, especially when we see the surrounding communities getting their speed zones authorized. So administration will continue to push the Department of Highways and try to get the southern entrance at 70. So we'd have a 90, 70, 50, but for the time being, recommendation to council to ask highways to put up a radar mobile sign at the south end of the community to enforce the 50 zone.
I'd like to thank Mr. CEO and the mayor for all their efforts, because it's a long overdue project and I don't have to elaborate on it anymore. How many calls we get about this all the time. So thanks again.
No problem. I'm just curious, what's the time frame, Mr. CEO? If, first of all, does this get approved, or are we just saying we're going to do it?
We need to have approval. I'm hoping that it is a lot faster than putting up a speed sign reduction. So again, it's finding that right contact in the right department. So I hope once we send it off, it will go to the right person and have the authority to do it ASAP.
Okay. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Any other comments? No, please cast your vote.
The vote is carried 5-0.
Perfect. Moving on to item 6.2.1, waiving utility fees due to COVID-19. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Belanger?
Second,
Councillor Pelletier.
thank you.
For the third quarter of our process since COVID started, administration is asking council to waive the penalty fees on the water and sewer portions of late payment. Being in code red, this in the metro region only enforces the importance of staying home, being safe, which may cause some hardships for a lot of our residents, and we would tend to be maybe sympathetic towards this. So administration is requesting a continuation of waiving the penalties until resolution of COVID is found.
Thank you. Any comments from council?
Not here.
I might have asked this already, so excuse me, but do the residents know this? Or if we tell them, they'll just sit on it, or how does that work?
I do not know the answer. I'm hoping that Assistant CEO Lemoine would maybe chime in if she does know. I'm not sure if we put out a connect message or not, but if that's something that you're absolutely right, Councillor Belanger. If we don't say anything, then we hope that people do pay it on time. If we do say something, then they'll sit on it. Not in the best interest to do that, but up to council. Any information, Ms. Dominic?
We haven't advertised, no. So it's only gone through the resolution process, but we've never gone through Connect or our website to say we are waiving the fees. So the public, unless they are reading the minutes, they wouldn't necessarily know that there aren't penalties. So they would just assume that they would be getting penalized if they don't make a payment.
Yeah. Have you had anybody come in late and argue that, saying that they haven't been able to get in?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think we need to advertise it. I was just curious how they would know. But I guess if somebody came in and they're raising a stink, or then we'd say, no, you don't get penalized, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, cast your vote.
Vote is carried 5-0.
Perfect. Moving on to item 6.2.2, Rich Hut Fire Protection Grant. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk.
Second? Come on, Clayton.
Councillor Clayton. Still fun being second.
Go ahead, Mr. Stado.
As previously discussed, there is an opportunity to tap into some provincial funding regarding the fire department. The grant is, there's a $5 million grant for the province available to 137 municipalities, towns, cities, et cetera. So our fire department has put together a proposal that would see some dollars being invested in the fire hall design for the Ile-des-Chênes community. There would be an application as well for a tanker, a water carrier equipment for the municipality that would serve all of the RM Marichot. Another proposal is regarding gear extractors, and that's just a big fancy word for a big washing machine that could handle the turnout gear washing, as well as rescue program. And there's different items in that regarding rescuing capacities. So what we're looking at is maybe, just doing quick math in my head here, around $500,000 of projects. The big one being the tanker, almost chewing up more than half of that. But not knowing more of the capacity and the flexibility of the program, my recommendation to council would be to write up just a generic support resolution for the projects that I've mentioned, and that we would work with the province in those funds once we hear back regarding what portion we're awarded.
Yeah, a great opportunity. I'll open up for council. Any discussion?
I think it's a great idea. Hey, Mitch, maybe this is not a question to ask. What about the radios? Would that be covered under this grant too or not?
Good question. The grant for sure cannot cover stuff that was bought previously, so we
Okay.
were maybe looking at putting in for the mini rescue that we just acquired. The status of the radios, I'm not 100% sure where we're at with that, but if that would qualify, and I'm sure the members of the fire department who are putting this grant together would definitely have thought of it. If not, I will mention it in our conversation right after this meeting.
Yeah, because it's a very expensive commodity. It's really expensive. Those radios are not cheap. Okay, thank you.
I have a
Perfect.
question about, you mentioned the design of the new hall in Ile de Chêne. So that in that 500, that's just to do initial design, or did they go into, I apologize, I didn't read it, but did they go into deeper detail on that?
In the application, they've got some kind of design only, not construction. They've got a fee of $90,000. I think the $90,000 also includes environmental assessments of the site. And there was another word that Deputy Chief Paul Houle mentioned that slips my mind right now, but those would all be included in the demand, in the ask.
And you said 90,000?
90, correct.
Okay. Yeah, that should cover it. Perfect, thank you.
Anything else from council? Okay, cast your vote.
That vote is carried 5-0.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to item 8, adjournment. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Mamchuk,
Second.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you. Cast your vote.
That is carried 5-0.
Perfect, thank you. We close the meeting at 9:37 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Dominic,